Hi everyone, Barnaby here, Electric Car Converts in dreary Sussex. It's September the 5th, which funnily enough, last year we were at Goodwood Revival exactly this time, because it's my birthday weekend, don't forget that in the comments. And it was the hottest day of the year, whereas if you look now, it's absolutely crap. So, funnily enough, because of that, we have a little mini announcement that we're not really talking about, but sort of are, is that we are setting up a workshop in Miami, Florida, USA at the minute. So the idea being my team here are making kits, which is what this chassis is for. So we're going to build full kits onto this rolling chassis, which is actually just rolling on casters, and then ship them to our US workshop in Miami and fit them into your car that might look something like that, or something like that, or something like that. Basically, it's got to be a Land Rover Defender, or maybe a Range Rover Classic, or maybe a Series, depending how nice you are to me in your email. But basically, that's a little bit on the DL, but if you have got a car like that, you could pop into my DMs or my comments or my email or whatever it may be, and we can talk about it. And basically, as of 2025, we're going to start shipping a lot of stuff out there. So it's going to be announced soon. It'll be a whole new video, but just to get you thinking. Anyway, back to the video, which is about this beast. Roof tent, big awning they put on it. There's a full slide out kitchen that's actually going in the back. So this thing's going to be some pretty, really, really cool off-grid camping, you know, Lake District kind of thing, whatever it may be. Standard 55 kilowatt hours in the front. You guys have seen that before. Give them a quick look at that. It's looking pretty snazzy, as ever. But the pièce de résistance, if that's what they say, is the second 55 kilowatt hour pack, which is actually paralleled, so we're staying at 400 volts, we're not going up to 800 volt architecture because of the motor and the charging infrastructure in the UK. But we have now got 110 kilowatt hours in a Defender, which is ridiculous, and you've still got a full boot. There's nothing under the seats there. It's literally the seat box, which Defender people will know what a seat box looks like. In fact, check out one of my Instagram reels where I sort of put the two next to each other recently. You're just sitting on a battery, you don't even know it's there. And that, we're hoping that this car now does, it's a calculated 300 miles of range. Realistically, if you watch our 2 episodes ago, we did a full range test in a 55 kilowatt hour car, and that came out at 142 miles. So technically this is 284 miles of range. Let's call it 260 or something like that. This car, maybe even less, because this is not good for range, this is not good for range. These bloody huge things are not good for range. But who cares about range when you've got 110 kilowatt hours? Now, I want to show you something cool on my computer, which is, I've just put in here, here's what I did earlier, largest kilowatt hour EV in UK, and it's come up, battery capacity of electric vehicles, average is 71 kilowatt hours. The biggest is the Mercedes EQS Maybach 680 at 118 kilowatt hours. The next one down is a Mercedes G-Wagon, I think. And then a Lotus Electra at 109 kilowatt hours. So we're at 110 kilowatt hours. So this, I think I can say, is officially the second biggest battery pack on UK roads at the minute. It's certainly the biggest converted Defender in the UK. I think there's one that's in Europe somewhere that's bigger. That's a 130, that's mental. But this at 110 kilowatt hours is a serious amount of battery pack. That's bigger than any Tesla in the UK. That's bigger than your Polestars, your whatever. It's not going to have more range because it is still a brick. But that's a pretty cool fact to tell your mates at the pub if you were to buy one of these. Now, the lovely man who owns this will probably definitely tell his friends at the pub that, or his friends at the campsite, or in the middle of nowhere where he hopes there are no friends because it's wild camping, you know what it's like. Now, when you've got 110 kilowatt hours, you got to think about charging the damn thing, okay? Because although you can go a very long way, you also have to spend quite a lot of time charging it back up because it is so huge. So I want to spend this video sort of going through the 3 major types of charging. We're going to start here, and when I plug it in, I'm going to show you the underneath, just because I know everyone likes to see the underneath and the nitty-gritty and the bits that the other people don't show you. So we're going to start with, let me just grab my phone, stay there, sorry. We're going to start with granny charging. Right, come with me. Granny charging is a 3-pin plug. That can be a US plug, or it can be a UK plug, or it can be an EU plug, or whatever. It goes through a little box there, and it becomes your Type 2 EV charger, or your Type 1 EV charger if you're in America. That plugs into a standard socket. It's actually how my normal EV charges outside, and it's how we do all of our charging in the workshop. You pull out your one thing, you can actually have a look at that, which is where the fuel filler used to be. We now obviously have a nice little Type 2 charger. We plug that in, and a bunch of clicks go on. The click you hear there is that locking in, so that the yobs in your neighborhood can't unplug your car. And then we've just seen all the gauges come alive. We're seeing 45, if you can come right in there. We can see 45% battery there, and a very small rate of charge. I think it's probably, I don't know, it's putting in probably 10 amps of charge, which when you have 110 kilowatt hours at 400 volts is very, very, very slow. But let's work out what it actually is. So the way you do that is we've got 110 kilowatt hours in the battery pack of storage, and the plug in the UK, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it gives 2 to 3 kilowatts of power. So let's put that at 2.5. So I'm going to divide that by 2.5 kilowatts go in to the battery pack every hour. That means that to go from 0% to 100%, which remember you'll never do, because if you're at 0%, you're probably stuck on the road somewhere, you're not at home, and then up to 100% is 44 hours. Okay? So what I don't recommend is going out on your 250, 300 mile drive in this thing and then plugging in at your granny's house, which is where the granny charger came from, because you'd have to stay there for 44 hours until you're able to get home again. Now, that's not really practical. It's fine on the 55 kilowatt hour packs, and we do it quite regularly because then it's only like a 20-hour 0 to 100%, or more likely you've used 50% of your battery in a day, you plug it in and overnight it's full again. So, but it does work, and it is charging. Slow, bit boring, probably not really necessary. While it's charging a little bit now, I'll show you the underneath. So, this is very heavy, as you can imagine, but she works. She goes up. We'll get there. Right, now she's up in the air. This is where the magic happens. But really, under here, it's quite similar to what you've seen before, i.e. UBP up there somewhere on all our big framework. This big framework and stuff was made by Toby and his welders in-house in the fabrication room, and then powder coated. Motor, Tesla Model 3. This thing, although it's mega heavy, it's mega heavy. It's got 320 kg of battery in the front, and then another sort of 350 odd in the middle here. So the weight is in a good place, and it's low down because it's in these boxes here is where the modules are. It's heavy, but it's not like really, really heavy. And with this much power, you have no idea how. It doesn't really feel heavy at all, because obviously it just still flies along. You've still got torque. It's not like you're laboring a diesel that's got a big trailer on the back. So that bit you'll recognize. What you won't recognize is this whole middle section. So we basically got, this is by Felton, by the way. We don't make these in-house, but Felton have made a Defender system for us, which has batteries there. So that's your 55 kilowatt hours. And then the whole top, which is sort of the middle of the car, which I'll show you when we're inside the car, is your contactors, your BMS, your software, all that kind of rubbish. And then all the plugs for that are up here. So you got HV plugs, you got a plug down to the motor, all that kind of stuff. You've also got coolant in and out of that battery pack, so that's running parallel to have quite a good cooling for if you're CCS charging. Back here you've got your original 12 volt stuff, so the things that run your wipers, your indicators, all that kind of crap that we don't touch, sitting in there because it used to sit in the seat box, in the original seat box. The other thing is a 12-volt battery, which now is hidden under the floor. And then in the back here, we've got the AC condenser and fan there, sitting where the fuel tank used to be, because you can't have that in the front of an EV because it gets really hot and actually overheats the rest of the systems in the car. So it like overheats the motor, overheats the batteries, etc. when your AC is running. So that's why it's back here and out of our way. But without further ado, we're going to put this car back down, and then we're going to go to the CCS charger, which fortunately for us is just around the corner. For you, it's probably not. We're very lucky. And we're going to show you the other side of charging, which is the super fast one. So, anything else under here? Electric handbrake. Other than that, let's go down and let's go to the CCS charger. Okay, so we have now made it to a BP Pulse, which is at a BP petrol station. They serve really good spaghetti bolognese, by the way. But this can charge at 150 kilowatts, which is a huge number compared to the 2.5 we just tried earlier and the 7 kilowatts that you can charge from a normal AC charger at home. The reason this can go so high is because it's DC. And DC means that it just is a direct link between the battery pack and the charger rather than it going through an onboard charger or something like that. So it's much more efficient, much quicker. It's basically big, fat, high voltage cables that will charge up the battery. Now, they can be a little bit unreliable, but hopefully this one's all right. You'll find them at BPs like this, you'll find them at service stations, you'll find them quite a lot all over London. They're always like this big box here. But what I don't want any of my clients or customers to do is to get to 0% charge at one of these and then it not be working, because quite often you go past and there's a red light up here saying that the charge is not working. So it says 150 kilowatts. We've software limited the battery packs, well, Felton actually have, to only allow 70 kilowatts of charge. So let's work it out at what 70 will be. So 110 kilowatt hours in the battery pack divided by a charging speed of 70 kilowatts per hour is 1.57 hours, 0 to 100%. If it's always charging at maximum speed, which it's not, you're basically going to want to charge up to about 80% and then unplug and get on with your journey, because the car can charge really quickly to 80% and then it really starts slowing down just to, basically there's not enough electrons left in the battery pack to like really fly around so quickly. So that slows it down. But think of this as a 0 to 80% would probably take, I don't know, an hour and a bit. But realistically, you'd probably stop with 20% battery, go up to 80% battery, and let's say that takes 45 minutes, an hour or so. We don't know the exact numbers because we haven't actually tried it, because this is very rare. You'll probably do this once or twice a year, like on your way to Cornwall, if you go to Newcastle, if you're driving across the States or something like that. Usually you charge at home, which is what I'll show you in the third segment of this video. So this is how it works. Get your credit card out as normal. We're on charge point B. Bank card. Price per kilowatt hour is 85p, which is ridiculously expensive. And probably actually more expensive than just using petrol. So that really shows how much you probably don't want to use these. Anyway, connect your charging cable to the vehicle, so come with me. Look at the size of it. A lot of power goes through this, as you can tell. But basically, plug that in, and she'll do a whole load of safety checks and things, and it will take ages to actually start the process, because it's almost dangerous, because it's 400 volts at 150 kilowatts potentially. That would kill you quite quickly. So while it's doing all of that rubbish, let's show you under the bonnet. Pretty normal under here. Standard Felton UVP, 55 kilowatt hours. Fuse board cover, so fuse board relays and that kind of stuff. We've got power steering here. We've got 2 cooling packs. We've got one for the motor, one for the battery pack. We've got an AC system. That's actually new in this car. We've not done AC before. Now that runs off a high voltage compressor, which is there, just down there. Little guy there. So quite efficient because it's running on 400 volts rather than 12 volts, but ultimately pushes cold air into the original vents. This can also do heat, so PTC heating in there as well. That's a really nice option, made by Classic Retrofit, not made by us. Now they're a sort of Porsche specialist, now Land Rover specialist in AC and heating systems. That all goes through to the stuff in here. That all goes through to the original vents and things like that. So to try and it's controlled by the standard switches and knobs and stuff in there, just to try and keep the Land Rover interior the same. This is a Puma, so this is quite a late one, so it's quite nice and quite fancy inside. But you don't want a whole new switchboard or whatever in there, so there's no need. And while we're at it, you can see the seat box from the inside. You can go in and have a look at that. See it in the middle there. Anything grey is seat box battery pack ultimately. So yeah, and then you can see where it hangs below. It doesn't actually go below the chassis rails. So you don't. It's not like we're using up ground clearance or anything like that in adding this extra battery pack. So come around. The rest of the car is pretty normal. Really smart car. No batteries in the boot, which is a really nice touch. You actually still have full load capacity there. And yeah, big HV plug charging this car super quickly, which is great, but also not so great for your bank account or, you know, that kind of thing. So now part 3 is I'm actually going to take this vehicle to a 7 kilowatt charger, which I've got at home. And the reason I wanted to show you one at home, I will tell you when we get there. But without further ado, let's go to the next charger. So we're on part 3 of the video now. I've lost my cameraman, but my arm will do in selfie mode. Now, I was going to go home for this, which is what I said in the previous segment, because it's a 7 kilowatt charger and I've got a 7 kilowatt charger at home. I haven't, because it's getting dark and I got other things to do than go home. So I thought I'd come to a local charging station. Well, a local train, that's a train station over there. And there are about 100, no, maybe about 1,000 EV charging points. Look at them, all the way down there, all the way down there. None of which are being used, which is quite interesting. Maybe they're too expensive. But 7 kilowatt charging is what you're going to do most of the time. So, for example, perfect, come to the train station, plug your car in, go to work for 8 hours and come back and she's probably fully charged again. A much cheaper way of doing it, because these chargers aren't going to be anything like the 85p per kilowatt we just saw at the supercharger. But, you know, and it's far better for your battery, because you're doing things much slower. You're not just firing power at it at 200 amps for an hour and hoping for the best. You're just sort of letting it go in at a much more gentle rate, which is not going to overheat things, not going to stress things like that. I forgot to bring a cable. Usually, well, sometimes these are tethered, so the cable is actually connected to the charger and you just plug it in. Sometimes you have to bring your own cable, which is what these are. So I'm not going to actually charge here, but obviously I could. Now, the reason I was going to do it at home is because at home it's really cheap, and that's why we recommend doing it at home. So at home we've got a octopus night rate, which means that as soon as it's nighttime, electricity is something like 7p a kilowatt hour. Compared to the 85p we saw earlier, that's a crazy difference. In fact, let's work it out. So 7p, which is 0.07 times 110 kilowatt hours, is £7.70 to charge a car from 0 to 100%. Compare that to the supercharger, which was 0.85 times 110, £93.5. It's a crazy difference. So for £7.70 to be able to drive nearly 300 miles is as cheap of motoring as you're ever going to get. But you can only do that if you're charging on an Octopus night rate, which is like, you can sign up for that and, you know, pretty much, I'm pretty sure everyone can have it. But a really big difference. And then the one time you do need to charge out and about on the road, you pay the 93 quid. Really, you're going to be paying 40 quid because you're probably going to go just like take half a battery pack, 55 kilowatt hours. So it's not crazy expensive, but it is probably comparable to a diesel or a petrol car. Now, just to keep my arms getting tired, but to keep everything right, we're doing here, this will charge at 7 kilowatts, and it would charge at that for the whole time. It's 110 divided by 7, which is a 15.7 hour full charge, which is quite long, but remember that's 0 to 100%. You're very unlikely to do that. It's more likely you're going to pop out to the shops, come home, plug her in for an hour and she'll be full again, or even go out and do 150 miles, which you probably wouldn't do 150 miles from your house and go back to your house, but you could then plug in for 8 hours overnight and be back in business again. So quite a good option, what we recommend and what people do most of the time. So there she is. I am now going to go home because it's my birthday tomorrow, and this car actually goes home tomorrow, so my team are dealing with that. I'm not going to work. I don't work on birthdays, come on. So the client gets a real nice birthday present and I don't get one, but what can you do? Plenty more of them in the pipeline, plenty more to come in kit form, etc, etc. So thanks a lot for watching, and we will see you on the next episode where we'll talk about something else I don't know yet. Thanks for watching.